The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with the usual sounds of a busy morning. Hundreds of different alien species sat in their assigned seats, talking in their strange languages. Some looked like giant insects, others like walking crystals, and some like nothing anyone from Earth had ever seen before. The air filled with clicks, whistles, and sounds that human ears could barely understand. Ambassador Kethvar from the Zelonian Empire adjusted his long neck and looked around the massive room. His 6 eyes could see much more than most creatures. And today something felt wrong. He counted the seats in the human section 3 times, but the result was always the same. Empty, all of them. For 12 years, Lisa Grant had never missed a council meeting. The human woman was small compared to most beings in the hall, but her voice was always the loudest when she argued for her people. She had dark hair that she kept tied back in a simple style, and she wore the same blue uniform every day. Other council members had learned to respect her sharp mind and quick tongue. Kethvar remembered the last time he had spoken with Lisa. She had been worried about something, but she would not say what. Her usual confident smile had been replaced with a look of deep concern. When he asked her about it, she simply said that humanity was facing some difficult choices. The crystalline, Chairman Vexthu, stood at the center of the hall. His body was made of what looked like living diamond, and when he spoke, his voice rang like a bell through the entire chamber. Today, he seemed annoyed as he looked at the empty human section. "Where are the human representatives?" Vexthu asked, his crystal form flashing different colors as he spoke. "This is the 3rd meeting they have missed." Delegate Morkith from the Zelonian military stood up. His species looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs, and he was known for his suspicious nature. "Perhaps they are planning something," he said in his deep, rumbling voice. "Humans have always been unpredictable. Maybe they think they are too important for our meetings now." But Ambassador Yindal from the Ethereal Collective disagreed. Her people were beings of pure energy who took the shape of glowing lights when they needed to communicate with physical creatures. "Lisa Grant would never miss a meeting without sending word," she said, her voice sounding like wind chimes. "Something is wrong." The truth was that no one had heard from any humans in 3 days. Not just the council members, but nobody at all. The galaxy's communication networks, which connected thousands of worlds across hundreds of light years, carried messages from every corner of space. Except from human territory. Commander Jake Rodriguez should have been there too. The human military officer was supposed to give his quarterly report about the security of the outer colonies. His ship, the Resolute, was supposed to be patrolling the dangerous regions near the galaxy's edge. But when the council tried to contact him, they heard nothing but empty static. The silence was strange in another way too. Humans were always talking. Their merchant ships filled the communication channels with trade requests and shipping updates. Their research stations sent regular reports about their scientific discoveries. Their colony worlds broadcast news and entertainment programs that other species sometimes watched out of curiosity. But now, nothing. Dr. Fluxine, the council's chief scientist, floated near the ceiling in her transparent bubble filled with methane gas. Her species could not breathe the same air as most other creatures, but her intelligence was valued by everyone. "I have been monitoring all communication frequencies," she announced in her bubbling voice. "There has been no contact from any human world ship or station for 72 hours. A nervous feeling spread through the great hall. Even species that did not like humans very much began to look worried. The Gelonians might complain about human stubbornness, and the Ethereals might find human emotions too intense, but everyone knew that humans were reliable. They kept their promises. They showed up when they said they would, and they always answered their communications. Chairman Vexthu's crystal body began to pulse with a deep red light, which meant he was becoming seriously concerned. "Has anyone Attempted direct contact with Earth itself? He asked. Yes, replied the communication officer, a small furry creature whose species specialized in long-distance messaging. We have sent signals to Earth, Luna Station, Mars Colony, and the Jupiter Research Platform. All messages have been returned as undeliverable. It is as if these places no longer exist. The great hall fell silent. Even the constant background noise of hundreds of different species stopped. For the first time in over 50 years of galactic cooperation, no one knew what to say. Something had happened to humanity, and nobody had any idea what it might be. 3 days passed with no word from humanity. The Galactic Council could not wait any longer. Chairman Vextu called an emergency meeting, and the great hall filled with worried voices from dozens of different species. The empty human section looked like a missing tooth in an otherwise complete smile. Admiral Vexmar from the Andromedan Alliance stood up to address the council. He was a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms and eyes that glowed white in the dark. His people were known as excellent explorers and had mapped more star systems than any other species in the galaxy. We must investigate, Admiral Vexmar said in his calm, steady voice. The silence from human space is not normal. Something has happened, and we need to find out what. Science Officer Yindel floated beside him, her energy form pulsing with different colors as she spoke. I agree. My people can detect life signs from great distances. If we get close enough to human worlds, we can learn if anyone is still alive there. Chairman Vextu's crystal body flashed bright yellow, which meant he had made a decision. Very. Well, Admiral Vexmar and Science Officer Yindal will lead a joint investigation fleet. Find out what happened to the humans. The investigation fleet launched the next morning. 5 ships from different species joined together, each bringing special skills that might help solve the mystery. The Andromedan ship could travel faster than most others. The ethereal vessel had sensors that could detect the smallest signs of life. The crystalline ship had weapons in case they found trouble. The Zelonian ship carried soldiers who were ready for anything. The 5th ship belonged to the Aquatic Federation and could operate in any environment. Their first stop was Luna Station, the large space station that orbited Earth's moon. From far away, it looked perfectly normal. The lights were on, the solar panels were working, and the communication dishes were still turning slowly in space. But when they tried to contact anyone inside, they heard only silence. Admiral Vexmar led a small team aboard the station. They wore special suits that would protect them from any dangerous air or radiation they might find. But when the airlock opened, they found that the air was clean and safe. The temperature was comfortable, and all the systems were working normally. The station felt like a ghost ship. In the main cafeteria, they found tables still set for meals that were never eaten. Coffee cups sat half full, with a thin layer of mold growing on top. In the command center, computer screens still showed the daily work schedules, but no one was there to do the work. Captain Rick Turner's office was on the top level of the station. The investigation team found his door unlocked and his room exactly as he had left it. His uniform jacket hung on the back of his chair. His coffee mug sat on his desk with his name printed on the side. A picture of his family stood next to his computer, showing a smiling woman and 2 young children. But Captain Turner was nowhere to be found. Science Officer Yindel used her energy abilities to scan every room on the station. Her report was the same everywhere. No life signs, no bodies, no signs of struggle or violence. The humans had simply vanished. The investigation team's next stop was Earth itself. The blue and green planet looked beautiful from space, just as it always had. White clouds swirled over the continents, and the lights of cities twinkled in the darkness. But when they landed in New Geneva, they found the same strange emptiness. The streets were clean, and the buildings were undamaged, but no people walked on the sidewalks. Cars sat parked along the roads with their doors unlocked and keys still inside. In the central park, playground equipment stood empty, with a few toys scattered in the sand as if children had been playing there just moments before. Dr. Amy Foster's research laboratory was located in the science district of the city. The building's security system was still active, but it let the investigation team enter without any problems. Inside, they found something that made them all stop and stare. The laboratory looked like someone had left in a great hurry. Papers were scattered across the floor, and several computer screens were still showing active experiments. In Dr. Foster's personal office, they found her desk covered with important-looking documents and star charts. Her computer was still running, showing a message that made Admiral Vexmar's skin turn a darker shade of blue. On the screen, in simple letters, were the words, "Protocol 7 initiated. May the stars forgive us." Science Officer Yindal studied the message carefully. "What do you think Protocol 7 means?" she asked. Admiral Vexmar looked around the messy office and shook his head. "I do not know. But whatever it was, Dr. Foster thought it was important enough to be her last message." The investigation team searched the entire building, but they found no other clues. Like everywhere else they had visited, the humans had simply disappeared without leaving any trace of where they had gone or why they had left. The investigation fleet left Earth with more questions than answers. Admiral Vexmar decided they needed to check every human colony in the galaxy. If the disappearance was limited to Earth and Luna Station, there might still be humans alive on other worlds. But if the silence had spread everywhere, then something much bigger was happening. Their next stop was Kepler Station, a mining colony built inside a large asteroid. The colony was home to 3,000 miners who dug rare metals from the rock. The work was dangerous and difficult, but humans seemed to enjoy challenges that other species found too risky. When the investigation ships approached the asteroid, everything looked normal from the outside. The mining equipment was still working, digging deeper into the rock with mechanical precision. The lights in the colony windows glowed warmly against the black space around them. But when they tried to contact the miners, they heard the same terrible silence they had found everywhere else. Inside the colony, they found the same strange scene. The miners' quarters were neat and tidy, with personal belongings still in their proper places. In the cafeteria, they found a birthday cake with 26 candles, as if someone had been celebrating when the disappearance happened. The cake was covered with mold, but the decorations were still bright and colorful. The mining supervisor's office contained detailed reports about the work being done. According to the computer records, the miners had been ahead of schedule and had found a particularly rich vein of platinum just days before they vanished. Everything suggested that life had been going well for the colony. Science Officer Yin Dao made a disturbing discovery in the communication center. "Look at this," she said, her energy form flickering with concern. The last message sent from this colony was 3 days ago, at exactly the same time as the last message from Earth. Admiral Vexmar studied the time records carefully. That cannot be a coincidence. Something happened to all humans at the same moment. The investigation fleet traveled to 6 more human colonies over the next week. Each time, they found the same thing: empty buildings, abandoned meals, and signs that life had stopped suddenly at the exact same time. The agricultural world of New Kansas had fields of crops that were ready for harvest, but no farmers to gather them. The research station on Europa had experiments running that would continue for months, but no scientists to watch them. The most puzzling discovery was on Proxima Centauri b, where engineer Ben Clark had been working on a massive terraforming project. The planet had been hostile to most forms of life when humans first arrived, with an atmosphere that was poisonous and temperatures that were too extreme. But Ben and his team had been slowly changing the planet's environment to make it more like Earth. When the investigation team landed on Proxima Centauri b, they found the terraforming machines still working perfectly. Huge atmospheric processors pumped clean air into the sky, and temperature regulators kept the weather comfortable. According to the computer systems, the project was 89% complete. In just a few more months, the planet would have been ready for millions of human colonists. But the control centers stood empty, and Ben Clark was nowhere to be found. Dr. Fluxine had been studying all the data they had collected from the different colonies. Her analysis revealed something that made everyone in the investigation fleet feel afraid. Every human settlement disappeared at exactly the same time, she announced during their daily meeting. No matter how far apart they were, no matter how big or small, they all went silent within the same minute. Admiral Vexmar looked at the star charts showing all the places they had visited. Human colonies were spread across hundreds of light years, from the inner worlds near Earth to the distant frontier settlements at the edge of the galaxy. For something to affect all of them simultaneously would require coordination and technology beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. There is something else, Dr. Fluxine continued. I have been comparing the population records from each colony with the signs of life we would expect to find. Even if all the humans had died, suddenly we should have found bodies. But there are no bodies anywhere. No graves, no remains, nothing. Science Officer Yindel pulsed with a deep blue color that meant she was deeply troubled. It is as if they were never there at all, but we know they were there. We have their records, their belongings, their unfinished work. The investigation team realized they were dealing with something far more mysterious than a simple evacuation or disaster. Someone or something had removed every human from the galaxy with perfect precision and timing. The question was why, and whether the humans were still alive somewhere else. As they prepared to return to the Galactic Council with their findings, Admiral Vexmar looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity's disappearance was just the beginning of something much worse. The investigation fleet returned to the Galactic Council with news that shocked everyone. Admiral Vexmar stood before the Great Assembly and delivered his report in a grave voice. Every human colony, station, and ship in the galaxy had been abandoned at the same time. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no explanations. Just empty spaces where billions of humans had once lived and worked. The Great Hall erupted in worried discussions. Species that had barely spoken to each other in years suddenly found themselves talking together, trying to understand what had happened. The empty human section of the council seemed to grow larger every day, reminding everyone of the mystery they could not solve. General Morkith from the Zolonian Empire was the first to offer his theory. He stood up to his full height, his scales gleaming under the hall's lights, and spoke in his deep, threatening voice. "This is obviously a military operation," he declared. "Humans have been preparing for war, and now they are hiding somewhere, waiting to attack us when we least expect." Many council members nodded in agreement. Humans had always been known for their military strength and clever tactics. In the past 50 years, they had built up their space fleet and established colonies in strategic locations throughout the galaxy. Some species had always been suspicious of human intentions. "Think about it," General Morkith continued. "They disappear completely, taking all their technology and knowledge with them. Meanwhile, we waste time and resources trying to find them. When we are weak and confused, they will return with new weapons and conquer us all." Delegate Kextar from the insectoid hives buzzed in agreement. His species communicated through vibrations that sounded like angry bees, but the translation devices made his words clear. Humans are predators by nature. They smile and pretend to be peaceful, but they are always planning their next hunt. This disappearance is just another hunting strategy. But not everyone agreed with the military. Theory. Philosopher Zender from the ethereal collective floated to the center of the hall, her energy form glowing with calm silver light. "You are wrong to think so badly of humans," she said in her musical voice. "I have studied their culture for many years. They are capable of great violence, yes, but they are also capable of great sacrifice." Zender's form shifted colors as she spoke, showing different emotions through light patterns that other species had learned to read. "I believe humans have achieved something we have never seen before. They have evolved beyond the need for physical bodies. They have become beings of pure thought and energy, like my own people, but through technology instead of natural development." This idea frightened some council members even more than the military theory. If humans had found a way to exist without physical form, they would be nearly impossible to fight or even detect. They could be anywhere, watching and listening to everything the council did. Dr. Velther from the Andromedan Alliance had spent weeks studying all the data from the investigation. He was known throughout the galaxy as one of the most intelligent scientists alive, and when he spoke, everyone listened carefully. His forearms moved in complex patterns as he presented his analysis. "Both theories are possible," Dr. Velther said, "but I fear the truth may be much worse. The precision of this disappearance suggests technology far beyond anything humans had developed. The simultaneous removal of billions of people across hundreds of light years would require power sources and coordination methods that no species in our galaxy possesses." The hall grew quiet as Dr. Velther continued his explanation. "I believe humans were taken by something from outside our galaxy, something that views entire species the way we might view insects. The lack of bodies suggests they were harvested, possibly for biological study or as a food source." This theory sent waves of fear through the assembly. The idea that something powerful enough to harvest an entire species existed in the universe was terrifying. If it had taken humans, it might come for other species next. Ambassador Kethfer, who had been the first to notice the humans' absence, spoke up from his section. "But why humans?" he asked. "If this harvester wanted to study or consume us, why not choose the crystallines, who live longer, or the ethereals, who have greater mental abilities?" Dr. Velther's expression grew darker. "Perhaps because humans were the strongest military force in the galaxy. If you wanted to weaken our defenses before attacking, you would remove the most dangerous opponents first." The debate continued for hours, but no one could agree on which theory was correct. Some believed humans were hiding and planning to attack. Others thought they had evolved beyond physical existence. Still others feared they had been destroyed by an unknown enemy. As the council session ended, one thing was clear: the galaxy felt much less safe without humans in it. Whether they were friends or enemies, humans had been a constant presence for over a century. Their absence left a hole that no one knew how to fill. 6 months had passed since the humans disappeared, and the galaxy was falling apart. What had once been a peaceful community of different species working together was now becoming a dangerous place where old enemies remembered old fights. Zalonian Empire was the first to take advantage of this situation. General Morkith had convinced his leaders that the humans were gone forever, and now was the time to expand their territory. Zalonian warships began moving into systems that had been protected by human patrol fleets. The snake-like aliens claimed they were just providing security, but everyone knew they were really taking control. The Rigel system had been under human protection for 30 years. The system contained 3 peaceful worlds where different species lived and worked together. But when the Zalonian fleet arrived, they demanded that all non-Zalonian residents pay special taxes or leave. Many families who had lived there for generations were forced to pack their belongings and find new homes. Without human military ships to stop them, pirates and raiders became bold. The trade routes that connected different parts of the galaxy had always been dangerous, but human patrol ships had kept the worst criminals away. Now, merchant vessels traveled in fear, never knowing when they might be attacked. Captain Vesiel of the Aquatic Federation had been running cargo ships for 20 years. He had always felt safe because human ships regularly patrolled his usual routes. But last week, his ship had been attacked by raiders 3 times in 5 days. His cargo holds were emptied, his crew was injured, and his ship was badly damaged. Humans always answered our distress calls, Captain Vexel told the emergency council meeting. When pirates attacked, human ships would arrive within hours to help us. Now we send distress signals into empty space, and no one comes. The economic problems were getting worse every day. Humans had controlled many of the galaxy's most important industries. The asteroid mining operations that provided rare metals for advanced technology were all shut down. Director Sue Palmer's mining company had been responsible for 60% of the galaxy's platinum supply. But now her mine sat empty, and her workers were gone. Dr. Crystalline Humter, the council's economic advisor, presented a report that made everyone worried. Without human mining operations, we will run out of essential materials within 2 years, she said, her crystal body flashing red with concern. Many planets will lose their power sources. Communication systems will fail. Medical equipment will stop working. The Ethereal Collective had tried to take over some of the human mining operations, but their energy-based bodies could not operate the heavy machinery. The Andromedan Alliance had the technical knowledge to run the mines, but they lacked enough workers to keep them operating at full capacity. Every species had tried to fill the gap left by the humans, but none could do it alone. Even worse was the collapse of galactic diplomacy. For decades, Ambassador Lisa Grant had been the person who kept peace between species that did not trust each other. She had a special talent for understanding what different groups needed and finding ways for everyone to feel satisfied with their agreements. The Galactic Peace Accords had been Lisa's greatest achievement. The treaty had prevented 3 major wars in the past 10 years by creating rules for how species should handle their disagreements. But without Lisa to explain and enforce the treaty, old conflicts began to resurface. The crystalline hegemony and the insectoid hives had been enemies for thousands of years before joining the Galactic Council. They had stopped fighting only because Lisa had convinced them that working together was better than destroying each other. But now, with Lisa gone, they began to remember why they had hated each other. Border disputes that had been settled years ago were being questioned again. The Tau Ceti incident, which Lisa had resolved through careful negotiation, was brought up again by both sides. Each species claimed the other had broken their agreements, and without Lisa to mediate, their arguments grew louder and more angry. Chairman Vexthu found himself spending most of his time trying to prevent fights between council members. Species that had been friends for years were now suspicious of each other's motives. Every decision took longer to make because no one trusted anyone else. The humans were not just another member species, Chairman Vexthu told his private advisors. They were the glue that held our community together. Without them, we are just a collection of strangers who happen to share the same galaxy. The Galactic Council had always prided itself on being a civilized organization where different species could work together peacefully. But as the months passed without the humans, it became clear that much of that peace had depended on one species' willingness to stand between enemies and find solutions that everyone could accept. Now, with the humans gone, the galaxy was learning what it meant to live without protectors, mediators, and the steady presence of people who had always been willing to help others, even when it cost them dearly. 1 year had passed since the humans disappeared. The galaxy had grown darker and more dangerous with each passing day. Wars had started, trade had collapsed, and many species lived in fear. The Galactic Council met less often now because, too, many members were busy fighting each other or protecting their own worlds. It was during one of these rare council meetings that everything changed. The emergency alarm system began to sound throughout the Great Hall, a noise that had not been heard in over 50 years. The last time it had sounded was during the invasion of the Outer Rim pirates. When the entire galaxy had been threatened, Dr. Velther rushed to the main sensor station, his 4 arms working quickly across multiple control panels. His blue skin had turned almost white with excitement as he studied the readings. "Chairman Vexthu," he called out, his voice shaking. "You need to see this immediately." The crystal chairman moved to the sensor station, his body flashing rapid colors as he processed the information. On the main display screen, massive energy readings appeared like bright stars against the black of space. But these were not normal stars. The energy signatures were artificial, created by technology more advanced than anything in the Galactic Council's databases. "Where are these readings coming from?" Chairman Vexthu asked. "The Andromeda Galaxy," Dr. Velther replied. "Signals are so powerful that they are crossing the void between our galaxies. Whatever is creating them must be enormous." Science Officer Yindel floated closer to examine the data. Her energy form pulsed with different colors as she analyzed the readings. "Wait," she said suddenly. "There is something familiar about these energy patterns. I have seen similar signatures before." She worked at her own control panel, bringing up files from the investigation of human colonies. Side by side on the screen, she displayed the new energy readings and the old human technology signatures. The patterns were similar, but the new ones were thousands of times more powerful. "These are human energy signatures," Yindel announced to the shocked assembly, "but amplified beyond anything we thought possible." The Great Hall fell silent. For a full minute, no one spoke or moved. Then dozens of voices began talking at once in different languages, creating a chaos of sound that filled the enormous space. General Morkeith stood up, his scales rattling with anger. "Impossible," he hissed. "We searched everywhere. The humans are gone." But Dr. Velther was already working to establish communication with the source of the signals. The Council's most powerful transmitters focused their energy toward the Andromeda Galaxy, sending out messages in every language known to the humans. For 3 hours, they received no response. Then suddenly, the speakers crackled to life with a sound that made many Council members gasp. It was a human voice, weak and filled with static, but unmistakably human. "This is Commander Jake Rodriguez of the Human Defense Fleet," the voice said through the interference. "Is anyone receiving this transmission?" Chairman Vexthu stepped forward to the main communication panel. "Commander Rodriguez, this is the Galactic Council. We have been searching for your people for over a year. Where are you?" The response took several minutes to arrive, traveling across the vast distance between galaxies. When Jake's voice came through again, it sounded tired and strained. "We are holding position at the galactic barrier between the Milky Way and Andromeda. We have engaged the Devourer Swarm in battle." "Devourer Swarm?" Dr. Velther asked, but Jake continued speaking. "The situation is critical. We have lost 60% of our fleet, but we are maintaining the defensive line. Do not send any ships to our position. The enemy must not detect your location." Admiral Vexmar, who had led the original search for the humans, spoke into the communication system. "Commander, we do not understand. What is the Devourer Swarm? Why did you leave without telling us?" Jake's next transmission was clearer, as if he had found a way to boost the signal strength. "The Devourer Swarm is an ancient enemy, older than our galaxy. Our deep space exploration teams discovered them 3 years ago, approaching from the void between galaxies. They consume entire star systems, leaving nothing behind. The terrible truth began to emerge through Jake's broken transmissions. The humans had known about this threat for years. Their increased military preparation, their expansion to distant colonies, their secretive behavior in the final months, it had all been preparation for this moment. We calculated the timeline, Jake continued. The swarm would reach our galaxy within 2 years. We had to make a choice. Fight them here and risk the destruction of all galactic civilization, or draw them away and face them in the emptiness. Between worlds. Dr. Fluxine floated closer to the communication panel. But why did you not tell us about this threat? We could have helped you prepare. Jake's laugh was bitter and tired. The swarm is attracted to biological diversity. A galaxy full of different species would be irresistible to them. By removing ourselves completely, we made the Milky Way less interesting to them. And by positioning our fleet in the void, we became the target instead of you. The full scope of humanity's sacrifice began to sink in. They had not abandoned the galaxy or evolved beyond physical existence. They had voluntarily exiled themselves to the cold darkness between galaxies to protect everyone else. The communications with Commander Jake Rodriguez continued for several days, but each transmission became weaker than the last. The human fleet was fighting a battle so far away that their signals barely reached across the emptiness between galaxies. Each message brought new understanding of what humanity had done, and why they had done it in secret. Dr. Velther worked day and night to decode the encrypted files that Jake had managed to send along with his voice messages. The Andromedan scientist's 4 arms moved constantly across his control panels as he tried to unlock the secrets that humanity had hidden for so long. Finally, after 3 days of intensive work, Dr. Velther called for an emergency council session. The great hall filled quickly as representatives from every species came to hear what he had discovered. Even the warring factions stopped their fighting long enough to attend this meeting. I have decoded Dr. Amy Foster's files, Dr. Velther announced to the assembly. The message we found on her computer, Protocol 7, was not just an evacuation plan. It was humanity's final gift to the galaxy. On the main display screen, Dr. Velther showed the council what the humans had learned about the Devourer swarm. The ancient enemy was older than most stars, traveling through the universe and consuming entire galaxies. They fed on biological energy, growing stronger with each world they destroyed. The swarm was attracted to our galaxy because of its biological diversity, Dr. Velther explained. The more different types of life they could sense, the more appealing a target became. With hundreds of species living and working together, the Milky Way was like a feast waiting to be consumed. But the humans had discovered something else. The swarm's sensors were designed to detect large concentrations of different life forms. If the most militarily powerful species suddenly vanished from a galaxy, the swarm might lose interest and look for easier prey elsewhere. Science Officer Yindal's energy form pulsed with understanding. So by removing themselves completely, the humans made our galaxy less attractive to the swarm. Exactly, Dr. Velther confirmed. But they did more than just hide. They positioned their entire civilization between the swarm and our galaxy, turning themselves into a barrier that the enemy would have to destroy before reaching us. The final pieces of the puzzle came from Captain Rick Turner's personal logs, which had been included in the encrypted files. His voice, recorded just before the evacuation, filled the great hall with words that made many council members weep. "We know what this choice means," Rick's voice said from the speakers. "We are condemning our entire species to fight an enemy we cannot defeat in a place where no one can help us. But if we do not make this sacrifice, every species in the galaxy will die. That is not acceptable to us." The logs revealed how the humans had spent 3 years preparing for their exile. Every colony, every ship, every person had been secretly equipped for the long journey to the void between galaxies. They had built new weapons, developed new technologies, and prepared for a war they knew they could not win. "We are not doing this because we think we are heroes," Rick continued in his final log entry. "We are doing this because it is the right thing to do." Every species deserves a chance to live and grow and find their own path among the stars. If our sacrifice gives you that chance, then we die with honor. The last transmission from Commander Jake Rodriguez came 3 days later. His voice was so weak that the Council had to amplify it many times to hear his words. "The swarm has broken through our outer defenses. We are falling back to our final position. Tell the Council that we regret nothing. Tell them that humanity chose this path willingly." Then, Dr. Velther monitored the energy readings from the Andromeda Galaxy for weeks, but the signals grew weaker until they finally disappeared entirely. Whether the human fleet had been destroyed or had simply moved too far away to detect, no one could say. Chairman Vex Thu stood before the Council for the final time in this crisis. His crystal body had lost much of its usual brightness, dimmed by the weight of what they had learned. "We now understand what we have lost," he said to the assembled representatives. Humanity was not just another member species. They were the conscience of our galaxy. While we debated and argued and fought over small things, they quietly prepared to sacrifice everything to protect us all. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to establish the Human Memorial, a monument that would orbit the center of the galaxy and broadcast humanity's story to every world. Future generations would know what one species had been willing to give up so that all others could survive. But more importantly, the Council members returned to their home worlds with a new understanding of what it meant to work together. The wars stopped, the trade routes reopened, and species that had been enemies began to cooperate again. In the silence where human voices had once been heard, the galaxy found its conscience once more. And somewhere in the cold darkness between the stars, humanity's vigil continued, standing guard against the night that would consume them all.